So I've come to realize that life is always going to be a mixture of slavery and torture. Now, there's actually a way out of this, and it's to embrace it. Embrace slavery and embrace torture as much as possible, and that's actually how you minimize it. Now, the average person will be a slave to a 9 to 5 job for, I don't know, let's say 40 years. If you do that, you're working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 40 years. That's quite a lot of time. Now, how would you avoid that? The absolute best way to avoid that is actually to work as much as possible early on. So if early on you start a business and you work 12, 14, 16 hours a day, in total, you're going to have worked a lot less for a lot more money during your lifetime. If you want to make the same amount of money, you might spend, 10, 20% of the hours to make the same amount of money. Or you can make a ton more money and work more. But essentially, if you want to avoid the slavery of a 9 to 5, the only way out is to work extremely hard, make yourself more of a slave, basically on your own accord, rather than having life happen to you. And the same goes for everything else. The same goes for health. You can eat the average American diet and you can get all these diseases, or you can proactively sort of torture yourself, even though you'll learn to like it later on, minimizing the torture, therefore, not even mentioning the actual medical torture. If you're actually to eat the average American diet for like 40, 60 years, you're going to have all sorts of health problems. You need medication. You're going to have a worse mood. And all of this to avoid the torture of, say, eating your vegetables, the torture of working out. So health-wise, the only way to avoid future torture, much more extreme torture, you're avoiding things like cancer, is actually to torture yourself proactively in the short term. So you're going to work out, you're going to eat healthier. Even when you don't enjoy it, you're going to torture yourself by refraining from things. And basically every single time that you're minimizing your long-term slavery and your long-term torture, it's because you're actually embracing it in the short term, making yourself go through more slavery, more torture, and that is the only way out. So any negative consequences you have to avoid, you want to handle proactively. And they're always going to be there. It's always going to be hard, but doing the hard thing will actually make things so much easier in the long term.